All right, guys, I'm back. I'm going to try and do this on the fly today because I watch every minute of this trial. If you can see, I've backed it up some. I think this is the issue when you have a trial like this and one side goes and the other side goes, you have people contradict themselves. This was an agent that Johnny Depp had that he fired. So now she's being deposed by Amber's side. But this is what she says is about the earpiece.
Do you recall a time while you were representing Mr. Depp that he started having earpieces so people could feed him his lines during filming?
Yes.
Recall that became a regular thing for Mr. Depp, that he needed to use earpieces for lines being fed to him during films.
Yes.
Do you have a recollection of...
If you'll remember, the sound guy testified. The guy that actually put the earpiece in his ear and testified what was happening with that earpiece as they were strumming music through it. So I don't know if the agent thinks she lived in his head or, I mean, remember who testified for who in this hearing? The guy that managed this earpiece in his ear testified for Johnny Depp's side. This is a fired agent. Seems like then even the guy that testified before, which supposedly was his friend for decades, they stopped being friends 4 years ago. So, I mean, it's not looking good. Let me go find that other. And that's why it's good for a refresher course. This is the actual sound engineer that put the earpiece in his ear, and the one that played whatever was going through it. Here, anyway, here's his testimony.
When was the first time you used an earpiece with Mr. Depp?
First time we used it was on a movie he was directing called The Brave. We were doing a scene with Marlon Brando, who wears an earpiece for receiving his dialogue.
Objection. I'll allow it. It's fine. Go ahead.
Marlon uses an earpiece for his dialogue, and it was a long shooting day, and we let Johnny, as the director, let Marlon go after we shot Marlon's section of the film. And then for Johnny's character to act against something other than just a blank nothing, we put Marlon's performance in an earpiece into Johnny so he could act up against Marlon's performance.
Did Mr. Depp ever use an earpiece for some other purpose other than listening to Mr. Brando's dialogue?
After that, we started using an earpiece all the time where Johnny would listen to music while acting. We would play all different kinds of music depending on the character. He was playing, he and I would talk about it beforehand, and sometimes it'd be classical, sometimes it'd be rock, sometimes it would be blues. It depended on the character.
To what extent, if any, did you and Mr. Depp use that process in other movies on which you worked together?
We used that on every movie.
Mr. Wyatt, on those occasions, in addition to feeding Mr. Depp music, did you ever read lines to him?
Yes.
Why did you read lines to Mr. Depp?
Johnny typically likes to go into makeup in the morning and write his own dialogue and rewrite his dialogue. So sometimes there's not enough time to always to remember the lines and learn them. So I would remind him in his ear sometimes while music was playing at the same time.
And Mr. Wyatt, in your long experience working with Mr. Depp on films, how would you describe his level of preparedness on the set?
He's absolutely prepared. He knows what he wants the character to be. He collaborates with the director on what his ideas are, but he always comes very prepared.
And Mr. Wyatt, during your long relationship with Mr. Depp, what, if any, opportunity have you had to observe his sense of humor?
Quite often.
Okay, I could keep going with that. I think you get the point. The earpiece shit. Just remember who's testifying to what they think's happening with the earpiece is not the one managing the earpiece. The Depp side actually brought in the person, the sound engineer, and the person that Amber Heard side brought in is a fired talent agent. So just thought that'd be interesting to as a refresher. Thanks, everybody.